The most powerful king in the world was running, not from an army, not from a battle, but from a man. After the chaos of Battle of Gaugamela, the war didn't end, it transformed. Darius III was no longer commanding millions. He was fleeing across his own empire, trying to stay ahead of something unstoppable. Behind him, Alexander the Great advanced without hesitation, faster, sharper, more determined than ever. But Alexander wasn't the only one closing in. Because as Darius ran east, something far more dangerous was already forming around him. Not an enemy army, not a battlefield, but betrayal. And in this war, the most dangerous attack would not come from the front. The defeat at Battle of Gaugamela didn't just break the Persian army. It shattered the illusion of invincibility. For years, the empire had stood as the most powerful force in the known world. Its strength came not only from numbers, but from belief. Belief that the king could not be defeated. That belief was now gone. As Darius III retreated deeper into the empire, he attempted to rebuild what had been lost. He moved through key cities, gathering remnants of his forces, calling upon governors, commanders, and nobles to stand with him once again. But something had changed. Where there had once been loyalty, there was now hesitation. Where there had once been confidence, there was doubt. Each defeat had weakened his authority, not just militarily, but psychologically. His commanders no longer saw a king leading them to victory. They saw a ruler trying to survive. And in empires, perception is power. Some still followed him. Others obeyed out of duty. But many began to think beyond the present moment, calculating their own survival in a rapidly shifting reality. Because the truth was becoming clear, the war was no longer being fought between two equal powers. It was becoming a collapse, and Darius was losing control of it. While Darius attempted to hold what remained of his empire together, Alexander chose a different strategy. He did not slow down. He did not stop to secure every city. He moved forward with relentless speed, because Alexander understood something critical. This phase of the war would not be decided by another massive battle. It would be decided by pressure. Every forced march, every rapid advance, every unexpected appearance of Macedonian forces sent a message ahead of him. There was no time to recover, no time to reorganize, no time to rebuild resistance. Alexander the Great transformed movement into a weapon. His army became more than a fighting force. It became a psychological force, and that pressure spread far beyond the battlefield. Across the empire, satraps and local rulers watched closely. They saw the speed of Alexander's advance. They saw the inability of Darius to stop him, and they began to make decisions. Because in war, survival often matters more than loyalty. The closer Alexander came, the more dangerous it became to remain aligned with a losing king. This was no longer a traditional campaign. It was strategic suffocation, and with every step forward, Alexander tightened his grip, not on land, but on the structure of the empire itself. As pressure increased, the real breaking point did not come from the outside. It came from within. Among the Persian leadership were powerful men, commanders and nobles who controlled their own forces and territories. Men who had once stood firmly behind the king, but now they began to question everything. If Darius could not stop Alexander, could he still lead? If the empire was falling, who would control what remained? One of these men was Bessus, ambitious, strategic, and increasingly aware that the balance of power was shifting. As Alexander advanced, the risk of staying loyal to Darius grew higher. Supporting a failing king could mean losing everything: position, power, even life. So the decision began to form, not openly, not immediately, but quietly, among those closest to the king. Loyalty turned into calculation, and calculation turned into action. Eventually, the unthinkable happened. Darius III was seized, not by his enemies, but by his own commanders. The king of the greatest empire in the world was now a prisoner of his own men. And in that moment, the war was effectively over. Because once a ruler loses control of those closest to him, the empire no longer exists. As Alexander continued his pursuit, the distance between hunter and hunted grew smaller. He was close, closer than ever before, but he would never reach Darius as he intended, because the situation ahead of him was already collapsing. Darius, now under the control of his captors, was being transported eastward. The plan was unclear, Perhaps to use him, perhaps to replace him, perhaps to maintain the illusion of authority. But Alexander's relentless advance made everything unstable. There was no time, no certainty, only pressure. And under that pressure, the final decision was made. Darius was killed, not in battle, not by an enemy's sword, but by those who had once sworn to protect him. His body was left behind, abandoned in the dust of a collapsing empire. When Alexander the Great finally arrived, the scene told the entire story. The king he had chased across continents was already gone, and with him, the last symbol of Persian resistance. Alexander had not defeated Darius in combat, but through speed, pressure, and relentless pursuit, he had created the conditions for this outcome. Because sometimes in war, victory is not about striking the final blow. It is about forcing your enemy into a position where they destroy themselves. What happened next was not expected. Alexander did not celebrate. He did not treat the death of Darius III as a simple victory. Instead, he honored him. He ordered that Darius be given a royal burial, recognizing him not as a defeated enemy, but as a king. This was not just respect, it was strategy, because in that moment, Alexander made a powerful statement. He was not just the destroyer of Persia, he was its successor. By honoring Darius, he positioned himself within the structure of the empire he had conquered. He signaled to the Persian elite that he would not erase their world, but take control of it. This changed everything. The war for dominance was over. Now began the process of control. Alexander the Great was no longer just leading an invading force. He was becoming the king of the empire he had defeated. The fall of Darius III was not decided in a final clash of armies. It was decided through pressure, fear, and collapse from within. A reminder that in war, the battlefield is only one part of the fight. Because sometimes, the most powerful victories are the ones where the enemy falls apart before the final blow is ever struck. Subscribe for more cinematic war intelligence, where strategy, power, and history come alive.